Yeah, go.
Yeah, you see, a few years ago, I accidentally ran over Stephen King, and the feng shui master told me that it was because this car had too much death energy.
Good.
Was that okay?
That's, yeah.
Okay. She is so dingy. Yeah. Oh my God. Hollywood. No, it was. I spent a few years down there. I had this little studio apartment, and my husband was so sweet. I was like,
Welcome back. Today we'll be continuing the reading of Bug Guy, my novel about the giant bug from Kafka's The Metamorphosis becoming an influencer. Chapter 8, Beauty and the Bug. It was a long, awkward journey down the elevator to the ground floor. Kathy kept a dour look on her face, as though she didn't want to be there with me.
Kathy, why didn't you want to take Evelyn along with us?
Evelyn has barely any followers on her social media.
So, you're only letting people who have a lot of social media followers on your show?
Yeah, because otherwise, what's the point? Evelyn is not going to bring enough followers to watch my video.
Oh, so you're not bringing Evelyn along not because you hate her? It's strictly for business reasons?
Why would I hate her?
I don't know. I just get a vibe when you're around her that you don't like her too much.
Like I said, no, I don't hate her. It's that I don't think much about her at all. I mean, I have 10.4 million followers on Twitter, and she's barely 100. I'm like an elephant who doesn't notice an ant crawling on the ground.
I nodded.
Oh, I see.
Thankfully, at that moment, the elevator door opened and we made our way out onto the street. As soon as Mary turned on her camera and pointed it at us, Kathy's smile magically reappeared, along with her charm, like she suddenly flipped some sort of internal switch.
Say hello to Mr. Mittens,
She said, pointing to the Hummer parked in front of the building. It was a giant, ugly, boxy monstrosity on wheels, and the fact that it was painted pink made it even uglier.
That's a fine name for a car,
I said, trying not to laugh at the cutesy name for such a massive hulking steel beast. She opened the passenger door, then pointed to some writing scrawled on the frame of the window.
Look, I've even got Arnold Schwarzenegger to sign it,
She said with pride. I think she was trying to impress me, but it's hard to be impressed by a pink Hummer, no matter whose signature is on it.
His signature didn't come cheap. I paid an extra $50,000 for it.
Well, getting to name drop Schwarzenegger to any stranger riding in your car must be priceless.
It is.
And maybe you can recoup the cost by doing a commercial for MasterCard.
After plopping myself down on the front seat, the first thing I noticed was a small aquarium right next to the dashboard in place of a radio. In the rear area of the vehicle, Mary was trying to get her video equipment into the back seat, but kept bumping into ferns that were growing there.
You have made some very interesting interior decoration decisions for your car.
Kathy smiled with a gaping grin.
Oh, thank you for noticing. I put in the aquarium and ferns on the advice from a feng shui master.
You feng shuied your car?
I said in a flat tone to avoid snicker.
Yeah, don't you?
No, I have auto insurance.
Why not? Isn't it better to prevent an unlucky incident from happening than it is to get a check after you've already suffered damage?
Yeah, but I don't see how an aquarium is going to keep your car safe?
The element of water neutralizes the element of fire coming from the engine, you see? And the ferns relieve life energy to counteract the death energy of this vehicle.
Death energy?
Yeah, you see, a few years ago I accidentally ran over Stephen King, and the feng shui master told me that it was because this car has too much death energy.
Maybe. But it could also mean that you should be a more careful driver. Was he hurt?
No, it was definitely the car's fault. He was fine. Just a couple of broken legs.
Kathy hit the ignition, and the car's engine roared to life.
Maybe you should get an electric vehicle. Then you don't have to cancel out the element of fire with the element of water.
No, I like having an aquarium in my car. Plus, the ferns in the back absorb the carbon dioxide coming out of the tailpipe.
Yeah, but you wouldn't need ferns to absorb carbon dioxide if you had an electric vehicle.
Don't worry about that. I've got carbon offsets to take care of that.
Riding down the streets of New York in such a behemoth, I felt like we were on a military campaign to invade City Hall and overthrow the government. Kathy seemed cheerful as she blithely plowed through the streets in her iron chariot. I turned my head in her direction and asked,
By the way, where are we going?
She acted surprised.
Oh, nobody told you?
Yeah, things have happened so quickly in the past 2 weeks that people fail to update me on so many things.
Don't worry about that. I get that sometimes too. Anyway, I am opening up a new spa, and you're going to be my first guest. This is before the grand opening, so you'll have the privilege of experimenting some brand new health and beauty treatments that aren't available yet on this side of the Atlantic.
I'm honored to experience your new spa, but you do realize that I am a giant bug, right? I have different health and beauty needs from the average human.
Don't worry. All my treatments rely on your vital forces with cosmic energy. I'm sure they'll work on bugs the same way they do on humans.
I wasn't sure what to say. Although it was tempting to tell Kathy that cosmic energy and vital forces aren't real, I also didn't want to tell her, or even insinuate it, that she was stupid directly to her face. So I decided to zip it. Despite the heavy traffic, Kathy bulldozed her way through the streets with her juggernaut. She gleefully honked her horn whenever she felt like it, and all the other vehicles got out of her way to avoid being turned into pancakes. We arrived at a towering 50-story tall building. I got out and said,
Wow, I didn't know you bought an entire skyscraper to put your spa in.
I like how naive you are. No, this is a hotel. The Crystal Palace, the spa, is inside, only about half a floor.
Well, I figured that out already. I was just trying to flatter you.
When we entered the lobby, my buggy eyes were assaulted by an attack of shimmering lights. The cavernous room was filled to the brim with crystals, from chandeliers so heavy with crystals that they threatened to crash down, to windows of heavy crystal glass that refracted light into rainbows that dazzled my eyes with random flashes of color, to the walls decked with mirrors in ornate golden frames that make the dizzying lights 10 times worse. Kathy surveyed her surroundings with a 1,000-watt smile as she basked in the shower of lights and said,
I love this hotel. It has a very classy and yet has a flamboyant feel to it.
Yes,
I said.
It's like a disco, but in the 18th century.
What I should have said was that I felt like throwing up. All the lights were too disorienting for my insect nervous system, but I didn't want to appear impolite in front of Kathy, whom I was indebted to at the moment, so instead I quickly scampered to the elevator to get out of the lobby. We rode the elevator to Kathy's spa, where I was again overwhelmed with the decor. The walls were plastered with murals copied from Tibetan monasteries, depictions of bodhisattvas, hell demons, and other fantastic cosmological beings, all done in vivid technicolor. Intricately carved wooden brackets and other vaguely East Asian decorative motifs jutted out of the ceiling, and statues of Buddha guarded the entrance of the spa, along with a row of prayer wheels and prayer flags. It looked like a house Liberace would buy if he were really into Tibetan Buddhism. Kathy looked at me, beaming with pride.
Welcome to my new spa, the Mile High Club.
I glanced at Kathy with a dubious look.
Mile High Club?
Yeah, 5 years ago I visited Tibet, and it changed my life. I rediscovered my spirituality and got in touch with my inner goddess. I want to recreate that experience for other people, bring a bit of enlightenment to their lives.
Sure, but you do realize what the phrase Mile High Club means, right?
Yeah, Tibet is on a very high plateau. Get it?
Okay, but it also means having sex in an airplane. I'm not sure it's culturally sensitive to name a Tibetan-themed spa with a double entendre.
I'm sure the Tibetans won't mind. After all, they're really into Tantra.
She said with a wink. I wanted to explain to Kathy that Tantra doesn't equal sex, but didn't want to waste my breath on someone as dense as her, so I just followed her into the spa. Just as we passed the reception desk, Kathy pointed to a photo hanging on the wall, smiled, and said,
When I was in Tibet, I had the good fortune of meeting with the Dalai Lama. That's me with him.
Wow, I guess the Dalai Lama will meet with anyone.
That just slipped out. I shouldn't have said it. Fortunately, she didn't seem to notice.
Well, of course, being a bodhisattva means that his mind has been trained from before birth to be compassionate. In fact, I met him when I was strolling through the marketplace in Lhasa, and he just appeared right next to me. He was buying some vegetables for dinner, just like I was, and I couldn't help but strike up a conversation with him. He was generous enough to lend me precious time toward answering all my burning spiritual questions. We talked for about an hour. But at the end, he told me something very special. He said, seek refuge in the gyms, and it will be your destiny. I didn't know what it meant at the time, but when I first walked into the hotel and saw all the beautiful crystals, I had a realization. My destiny was to build a spa in the hotel and bring enlightenment to everybody.
That's a fantastic story. But you do realize that the Dalai Lama has been banned from Tibet, right?
Kathy looked surprised.
What? Why? Isn't he the most important person in Tibet?
He was. The Dalai Lama was like the Pope and King of Tibet rolled into one. That was until 1950, when China invaded Tibet and Dali and all the other lamas fled for their lives. They live in India now.
Well, I must have accidentally stumbled into India.
Really? You accidentally hiked over the Himalayas into India?
Yeah, sometimes you walk down the road for such a long time that you miss the exit to Lhasa and you accidentally end up hiking over the Himalayas into India.
The Himalayas are the highest mountain range in the world. You can't just casually hike over them. Not unless you have a few Sherpas and oxygen tanks.
Yeah, that's why I always carry around a few Sherpas and oxygen tanks in case I accidentally hike over the Himalayas.
How do you carry around a Sherpa? Do you have tiny little Sherpas you keep in your handbag?
Kathy nodded, with a hint of a serious wrinkle on her brow.
Exactly. I always have a few Sherpas that I keep in my handbag for emergencies. You can buy a pack of 4 for $7.99 on Amazon.
I'm sure Amazon doesn't sell Sherpas. Even Jeff Bezos isn't that evil. Yet.
Kathy reached into her handbag and pulled out a marker.
That's a Sharpie,
I said. Kathy shrugged.
Sherpa, Sharpie. It doesn't matter which exact brand you buy. Both of them will do an equally good job of getting you over the Himalayas.
I realized I had been trying to embarrass Kathy to make her back off her obvious lies, but she was way ahead of me. It turned out she was too shameless for that, so I cried uncle and shut my app. She led me into a dimly lit room that looked like a cave. The walls were artificially textured to resemble craggy rocks. They were painted with pictures of Buddhas, and a dull hum of monks chanting was piped in from speakers on the ceiling, giving the place an ominous feel. Apparently, this was our destination. Kathy trained her ear-to-ear grin on me and said,
Why don't you lay down while we wait for the massage therapist to arrive?
I turned around and saw a row of beds up against the wall. I crawled onto one of the beds and lay in a prone position.
I mean on your back,
Kathy said. I groaned.
Don't you know how uncomfortable it is to lay on your back when you're a giant bug? No, I guess you don't. Anyway, the pressure point on the back of your head and lower back feels like hell. Not to mention that wiggling your leg risks losing balance and falling to the ground.
Oh, don't worry about that. My assistant Diego will get you some pillows so you'll be as snug as a bug. Oh, you'll find the massage works better if you're on your back.
Next, Kathy snapped her fingers, and a young man in a servant garb suddenly appeared out of a dark corner. I grumbled but flipped onto my back, then felt the pillows being shoved underneath my body to support me. The position still felt uncomfortable, but at least it was tolerable. While I was enduring this unnatural posture, Kathy was lying on the bed beside me, her face conveying deep satisfaction, as if her lawyer had just informed her of another gazillion-dollar divorce settlement. At that point, 2 Chinese men in lab coats materialized. I assumed I need to take my clothes off, but instead the 2 men just loomed over us and waved their arms like they were doing some sort of Tai Chi.
When does the massage start?
Oh, it started already.
I lay on the bed, more confused than ever, as Kathy tried to explain.
These men are expert Qigong practitioners who have attained such fine control over Qi that they can project energy out of their hands and into another human being, essentially doing a deep penetrating energy massage without touching.
It felt odd seeing these 2 men pretend they were Jedi, but there were no signs that they were taking this tongue-in-cheek. Their faces were deep in concentration, like they were trying to summon a fireball in their hands. Kathy wriggled in her bed, joy extreme through every pore in her being, and said,
Don't you love the feeling of Qi penetrating deep into your muscles, relieving all the tension building up inside?
I don't feel anything. except the slightest bare essence of wind coming off their rustling clothes.
Well, that just means you haven't developed a sensitivity for chi yet. Once you've had enough practice controlling your chi, you will feel it.
Or maybe I'm not feeling anything because chi doesn't really exist.
Oh, show some respect for other people's cultures.
I acquiesced, not wanting to make a scene, then slipped back into silence. However, I wished that I had the balls to disrespect another person's culture. While I usually try not to be too judgmental about other people's crazy beliefs, seeing people who watch too many martial arts movies trying to make the special effects real is something that just ticks me off. After the two men finished their massage, Kathy sighed and said,
Oh, what an experience that was. I feel like I could wrestle a bear.
Well, I feel like I already wrestled a bear. My back is killing me.
I said, trying to get off the bed.
Wait, not so fast yet. We still have to do the facial.
Can I lie on my legs? I don't think I can stay on my back much longer.
Can you stay in your position for just a few more minutes? It's easier to do a facial with your face up.
I groaned, wiggled my legs a bit to get some circulation going. Meanwhile, two women entered the room carrying trays full of brushes and tubes of different stuff. First, they washed our faces with different soaps, then put on various fancy-smelling oils, then started doing the facial. They applied a brown substance on our faces. It felt very smooth against my cuticle and had a very pungent smell of something very familiar, something I wasn't able to put my finger on. Funny phrase we use, put my finger on, when I don't even have fingers anymore.
Kathy, what is this stuff?
Buffalo dung.
I didn't think hearing that dung was being smeared on my face would be that shocking, since I'm a giant garbage-eating bug, but I had to restrain myself from jumping off the bed and into the shower. I guess it's because I am a carrion beetle and not a dung beetle. Kathy looked at me and said,
What, do you have a problem having your face covered in poo?
Oh no, I had a friend who also used to cover her face with poo. She was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Good. It's nice to know you are open-minded. When I heard rumors that women in Tibet put dung on their face to keep them looking young, I decided to try it myself. Turns out it actually works, which is a good thing because before I discovered this treatment, I used to blast my face with a lot of harsh chemicals. They did make me look younger, but they were also extremely tough on my skin. Natural stuff is always better than any synthetic crap that comes out of a lab.
The smell of feces on my face was unpleasant but tolerable. But the thing that bothered me the most was lying on my back. Normally it wouldn't bother me too much, but Kathy's spa beds were as hard as ironing boards, and that puts extra pressure points on my exoskeleton.
Well, if you excuse me, I'm going to the ladies' room.
Kathy said, getting up from her bed.
Be back in a jiffy.
As soon as Kathy left the room, I rolled over on my legs and breathed a sigh of relief. I stretched out my legs and back, then said to the beautician,
Would someone wash this crap off my face?
She nodded, pulled me over to the sink behind the bed, and used her gentle hands to scrub the little shit off my face.
Would you like me to put some tea tree oil to help nourish your skin?
I nodded, and as she rubbed my face with oil, looked over to Mary, who was still pointing a camera at me, and said,
Oh, thank God Kathy's gone. At least for now. I couldn't stand that woman.
Mary narrowed her eyes and scrunched her nose.
Oh, don't say that. We're supposed to be promoting her spa. Besides, you don't want that statement ending up on her show.
I doubt it really matters what I say on camera, since you'll be heavily editing it to make me say what you want me to say.
You bet I'm doing that, but you still should say bad things behind someone's back. Didn't your mom teach you manners?
Yeah, of course. But when I was on that bed, I was thinking, is this what I'm going to do with my life? Is it worth it to earn millions of dollars if I have to lay on my back with feces smeared all over my face?
Really? I thought you'd love to have your face smeared with feces. After all, you love eating lots of stinking garbage.
Well, that's the thing. I'm a carrion beetle, not a dung beetle.
Mary scratched her head.
I don't get it. Garbage and feces stink the same. I don't know why you love one but hate the other.
That's because you're a human and not a bug. But believe me, to my bug senses, the two smell nothing alike.
Yeah, that's fascinating, but still, it's too late to back out of the promotional deal if you don't want to get kicked out of your house.
I don't mind losing the house. I can easily move to a smaller apartment. Evelyn and Mom, on the other hand, are much more attached to the house and will probably get pissed if we get kicked out. And Brian, too, come to think of it, since he's hell-bent on making me look like I'm rich, like the Kardashians, because otherwise no one would find my life interesting or watch my reality TV show. So yeah, I don't see any way of getting out of this promotional deal without making everyone in my life hate me.
After my face was fully oiled, I looked around and said,
What's taking Kathy so long? Does she really need to spend 20 minutes on the toilet?
Mary shrugged and said,
Maybe she's fixing her makeup or dealing with some, feminine issues.
Oh, shit. I don't want to be stuck here. I'd rather go back home and spend my time with Evelyn. I'm going to find Kathy so we can finish this stupid promotion.
I slithered down the corridor and saw a restroom on the side. It was a ladies' room, but nothing on the door said that no bugs are allowed, so I pushed the door and got in. I crawled all over, even on the ceiling, but didn't see anybody. I left the restroom frustrated, but then heard the faint voice of a woman in the distance. Initially, I wasn't sure if it was Kathy, but I followed the vibrations on my leg hairs to the source of the sound. Taking a left turn around the corner, I saw a small room with a door slightly ajar and poked my antennae through. There she was, sitting on a chair, her eyes closed. A nurse wearing latex gloves was administering injections to her face. It felt a little awkward seeing Kathy going through such a procedure, almost like barging in on someone while they're on the toilet. I was going to poke my head out of the room to wait for her to finish getting Botoxed, but she opened her eyes before I could. When she saw my face, she looked completely startled. Her eyelids flew open, as if they were trying to flee from her face, and her mouth opened as though she was about to scream. The sinews of her arms and legs tightened, like she was about to jump up to the ceiling. In a panic, she ran toward me, and in a frightened voice said,
Look, this isn't what it looks like.
Relax. I'm not afraid of needles, and seeing them being stuck in someone's face doesn't bother me at all.
No, I don't want you to think I'm using injections to, cosmetically improve my face.
Why not? People use Botox all the time. Heck, my mom does. There's nothing unusual or shameful about it.
Well, what I was using wasn't Botox. It's something like Botox, but completely natural.
By my measure, Botox is already natural to some degree. I mean, it's a protein produced by a bacterium that is naturally found in soil.
Kathy smiled nervously.
Very funny. But look, can you promise me not to tell anyone I inject anything into my face?
Kathy, that's the least scandalous thing you have done. Even if I told them, I doubt anyone would be that interested.
She got on her knees and pleaded.
Don't toy with me. Please, I beg you. My image would be ruined if people found this out.
Fine. I won't tell anyone what I saw here.
She breathed a sigh of relief, stood up and left the room.
Are you ready for your yoga lessons?
You know I'm a giant bug, right? My body isn't exactly made for yoga.
Don't worry. It's not your body that limits what you can do. It's your mind.
Oh, really? Do you use that line on terminally ill cancer patients?
All the time. People only die of cancer because they are not mentally strong enough to defeat their disease.
I sighed again, then followed her into an adjacent room filled with light and decorated with a lot of colorful paintings. They were a breath of fresh air, especially after coming out of a dimly lit room that made me think of grayish rocks. The instructor was a vivacious 20-something. When she saw me, she smiled in delight.
Oh my God! I can't believe I'm meeting the bug guy.
Yeah, I can't believe I turned into a giant bug either. Anyway, this yoga thing, I'm not sure I'm up for it. I mean, just look at my body. It's so different from a human body.
Don't worry. All it takes to do yoga is some warm-up exercises and the right attitude.
That may work for you, but I have an exoskeleton, and chitin is not that flexible.
She nodded sympathetically.
Well, you don't have to do the exercises exactly as I show them. Just try your best. And if it's too difficult, just stop.
I breathed a small sigh of relief through my spiracles. The first thing we tried was the lotus position, which was much more difficult for me than it would be for you. Mary put some pillows underneath me, and after fiddling around, adjusted the cushions so I could hold a posture without tumbling over. We did a few exercises where I raised my legs into the air and stretched them to the left, then to the right. It wasn't too difficult, but it felt precarious, as my round body has a tendency to roll on the ground. That was followed up by the downward dog pose, a real challenge, since my exoskeleton was not that flexible. I ended up opening my wing case to help my body bend in half, inadvertently creating a new yoga pose the instructors jokingly called Skyward Bug. Then I did the reversed injured cow, the bending backwards pretending you are a hydraulic jack, the pretending you are a jaguar preparing to pounce on an antelope. Or at least that's what I called the poses. It's so hard to remember their official names since they were even more ridiculous than my own names for them. Then we did a few other poses. I couldn't help but to notice that although many of them were inspired by animal postures, none of them were bug-based. There wasn't a perch like a dragonfly or touch your antennae with your legs pose. Those ones I would have excelled at. The session ended and the yoga instructor asked,
So, how do you feel?
Sore all over. I stretched muscles I didn't even know existed.
Well, you may get some of that. I've never worked with a giant bug before, so it might be completely natural for you to feel that way. Anyway, will we see you back here again?
Probably not. Yoga is not my cup of tea, and neither is getting my face smeared with feces.
That's a shame, because you look so cute stretching your legs and wings. Well, maybe your girlfriend will find this place stimulating. Hopefully, we'll see her here sometime soon.
Well, she is one of Kathy's fans, but Kathy wasn't very nice to her this morning.
I looked around and said,
By the way, where is Kathy?
The yoga instructor shrugged and said,
I don't know. 10 minutes ago, she just got up and left.
How am I supposed to get home?
She didn't say anything, but just bugged her eyes and shook her head. I hissed in frustration, then turned to Mary.
Come on. Let's get out of here. I'm tired and want to get back home as soon as possible so I can rest.
At first, I wanted to take the bus, just to see what it was like. But then I realized it would be faster to just fly back home. I grabbed Mary and zipped above the traffic and back to our ridiculously swanky home. When we arrived, I was so tired that I decided to go to bed early. After wasting a few hours on Facebook, Evelyn walked in the boudoir, her smile giddy and the bounce in her footsteps carefree. Tossing my iPad on the nightstand, I said,
Oh, Evelyn, I've never been so happy to see you.
She ran toward me in her cute prancing steps, wrapped her arms around me, and nuzzled her face against mine.
I'm so glad to see you too,
She said, caressing my antennae.
Had a rough day?
I was confused.
What do you mean?
You look sad.
I was surprised.
You can see that? Even though I don't have any facial expressions?
I have a lot of experience with bugs. I can read their body language better than anyone.
Yeah, I spent the entire day with Kathy, and man, that woman is bananas. I had to resist a strong urge to bite her more than once.
Evelyn kissed me and said,
Sorry to hear that.
Anyway, how was your day?
She grinned.
I got in touch with an old friend and we did touristy things like going to trendy boutiques and trying on clothes.
She took out her phone and showed me pictures.
This is me in Swedish designer Borg Fredriksson signature blueberry dress. And in this one, I'm trying to balance on a pair of stiletto sandals that are super popular in Milan right now.
She went through about 30 different photos of herself in dresses, shoes, vests, and jeans. As she flipped through one after another, I tried to seem highly interested.
Don't I look cute in this blue ball gown?
She asked.
It makes you look like a Southern belle. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Evelyn smiled, put on a Dixie accent and said,
Ah, certainly. Did have many gentlemen callers, kind of, sir, in my misspelt youth.
She then cleared her throat, returning to her regular voice.
Anyway, I really like that dress, but it was $5,000, and that was not my budget. I wonder if you could come with me this weekend to help me buy it?
Sorry, but it's not in my budget either.
Evelyn looked surprised.
But you just spent thousands of dollars taking me to a fancy restaurant yesterday. Why are you suddenly being so ungenerous?
Oh, the restaurant thing. That's just for work. Normally I wouldn't spend so much, but Brian insisted that I do it. He said it will draw in viewers for my show. Plus, ever since I started this TV show, I've had lots of expenses. I have to pay Mary for one, and this house is not just a house, it's the set for the reality show we're all part of. And it's not free. I'm paying thousands of dollars a month despite the discount. After all these expenses, we are just not as rich as we look.
Well, I guess I have to dress like a peasant for this weekend's party.
I couldn't stand her sad eyes and said,
Oh, all right. I'll ask Kathy and see if she can lend you something to wear.
Hearing that, she perked up right away, squeezed me with her arms and said,
Gee, thanks, you're the best.
After giving me a goodnight kiss, she turned off the lights and we both went to sleep. And that concludes Chapter 8 of Bug Guy. I would like to thank my friends Edie Matthews and Dave Strom for reading along with me. If you'd like to purchase the book which this audio recording was based on, I left a link below. Thanks for tuning in, and please come back next time for more Bug Guy.
There are times when I'm doing my reading where I'm trying to imagine myself as a bug and the way the body would affect my voice.
You do a super job, Dave. I really think you do great.
I noticed that this time it was all Bug Guy.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So I think he needs to have that kind of distinctive voice to set him off.
Yeah.
And I think it will be more interesting for people to listen when they hear how he sounds and hearing your voice for the internal monologue. It's two different things.
Yeah. Well, this is the first time I've done this, Kathy, and I just tried to do this arrogant, so I hope that came
I thought you did. Yeah, you did. It's,
this arrogant,
It reminds me that my character, Holly, would not like high society at all. I saw the movie Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, except they pronounce it Jekyll with Frederick March.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic
an old one.
movie, yeah.
What, on Ted Turner Classic, the classic movie station?
No,
did you see?
at the Stanford Theater
Oh,
in
yeah.
Palo Alto.
Patty Dick goes to that all the time.
Yeah.